Welcome to the Betrayal Trauma Recovery Bookshelf, a space for women healing from betrayal to reconnect with their mind, body, and soul, one page at a time. I'm Rachel Strong Smith, a betrayal trauma coach who's walked this path myself. In each episode, we'll explore books that speak to the heart of recovery, books that validate your experience, offer insight, and remind you that you're not alone. This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about coming home to yourself. So, whether you're in the thick of survival or finding your way back to solid ground, pull up a chair. You're in the right place. Okay, we are back with part 2, talking to Jeni Brockbank. I hope you have a chance to listen to part 1, and we're just continuing on with our questions. Let's dive right in. Hi, Jeni. We're glad we're here.
Thank you for having me. Yes,
Mhm.
grateful to be here.
So, in part 1, we ended with talking about APSATs.
Mhm.
And let's look into APSATs a little bit. So, APSATs identifies the first stage of healing with safety and stabilization. And in your book, I didn't introduce the book because I'm just going on. We're doing Healing in Christ's Light from Patterns of Sexual Betrayal. When you're talking in your book, you describe it as searching for and embracing peace. What does that mean in real life for someone whose world has just fallen apart? How does she even begin to find a small sense of that safety?
Such a good question. I would say probably one of the first things that we can hopefully practice, and I like to say the word practice because we are not going to arrive at this perfectly, is um, self-compassion. I think the concept of self-compassion is so transformational with trauma that it cannot be understated. I mean, it just really cannot, because when we have self compassion, we do come to this place of like holding ourselves very gently and of this place of like understanding. And so I think that's the first thing. And if we can't get there, it's okay. Because oftentimes, if our nervous systems are ramped up and we can't even breathe, I mean, we might do something like, I've got to get back in my body. And we might try a five senses thing where it's like, what are, five things I see and four things I hear and feel, touch, smell, and just going down. And it might sound silly. It might sound, I don't know, juvenile or something, but I cannot um say enough about how important it is to get back in our bodies. And so that's the thing, is often what's happening is we're experiencing what's called dissociation. And when we're dissociated, we are not necessarily with our bodies. It's like our minds are racing and whatever, and our body is doing its own thing. And we're wanting our bodies and minds to be aligned and to be one and to be able to work together, because that dissonance causes us great harm. It causes us significant pain.
Mhm.
So, another tool that I think we need to really look at is, I call it soul care instead of self care.
Yes. I
Um,
like that word, by the way, a
thank you.
lot.
Yeah. Because self care, the word self sounds selfish. And so it's often misunderstood. I don't see it that way. I used to actually, but just the word self sounds selfish. And when we're looking at soul care, to me, it transforms it into, what does my whole soul need in
Mm.
order to be okay right now? And, it's easy to look at it and say, well, bubble baths and chocolate, and that's also selfish. And I'll say, maybe for some people, maybe it is. But for somebody in huge trauma who's got, like for me, my body would be tight, 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 very painful for months on end. And so a hot bath was amazing soul care. You know, sometimes soul care might look like, I need to connect with a friend who will understand this and hold this. And really, what we're looking at is, what are my needs? And how can
Mhm.
I meet those needs and get back into my body and make sure that I know I'm valuable And that's another thing that soul care does is, with betrayal trauma in particular, we start to lose a sense of who we are and of our value. And it's very painful. It's very, very painful. So when we do spend time on things that are important to us, that take care of those needs, it sends a message to our nervous system, to our brains, to our bodies. Hey, I'm important. What I have to offer here is important. And it's okay to take time to make sure that I'm okay. And that is going to ultimately make it so that I can show up for others better. And one of the concepts that I love about this is that a traumatized body cannot calm down on its own. It just cannot. There are tools we need to use. I mean, because otherwise we're just going to spin in thoughts, we're going to spin in pain and concern. And the more we can look at it and just hold still and hold ourselves in compassion, meet needs, the better we're going to show up overall and be able to think through things more rationally.
Mm, yes. Thank you for sharing about that. It's a really shift in the belief system because in the betrayal trauma, actually a lot of gaslighting is going on about your needs are mean or cruel or, unnecessary. And then, I'll speak from my own experience. Then I really took that on. I was like, oh, well, it is distressing him when I have needs.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that makes sense. And so I would suppress those needs. And self compassion to me seemed like if I held myself in self compassion, I'm not holding myself accountable. And so
Mm-hmm.
I really need to use a lot of harshness to get myself kind of in line
Mm-hmm.
or doing stuff. And if I offer self compassion, I'll probably become really lazy or mean or not, present or something. But I found the opposite to be true.
Me
When I
too.
started with self-compassion, I was like, "Oh, I actually have more capacity. I actually am showing up better." Is kind of mind-blowing to me.
Yes, I love that. That's mind blowing to me too. And I think that it is kind of counterintuitive because we're like, no, I've got to shame myself into this behavior. And then we look at it and we're like, I'm going to hold myself in compassion that this was so painful. This doesn't really align with how I want to show up in the future. But I understand why I did it. And now I can move forward, own my behavior and make different changes. And there is a different way. It's like one way is like cutting through
Mhm.
something with a knife, the other way is peeling back layers, and it's kinder, but it is more work.
Oh, yeah.
It is so much more work, especially when we're not used to that way of thinking, but the power in it cannot be understated. Really it
Hmm.
can't.
Yeah. And that is where having that safe support coaches, therapists group where they can reflect back that self-compassion and hold space for it. And then
Mhm.
I was like, oh, well, okay, let me see what that feels like. And then I started offering it to myself and I was like, okay. And it's not an overcompensation or an undercompensation.
Yeah.
It simply is.
Yeah. I love that.
Mm,
Simply is.
it simply is. Well, speaking of getting support, healing from betrayal can be so isolating. And you talk about that in your book. What role do you notice that safe connection and community play in the recovery process? And how can women begin to open up after really withdrawing in pain? I mean, there's a reason we isolate.
There is. There's so much
Mhm.
shame around this. Or like we might think, I can handle this. This isn't, we might, this isn't that big of a deal. We might say to ourselves that kind of stuff, that kind of talk that is invalidating to our experience. Um, and again, holding ourselves in compassion. That
Mhm.
is normal way. That's normal how we think. But yeah, I came to this conclusion that community was better very reluctantly, I'll say. Um, I just remember I had been praying, and prayer was my therapy. That was it, basically. I was in this very severe situation, and I was like, God, you and me, we can do this. I think that will be just fine. And that's how I did it for 17 and a half years. The half matters because it was long.
I love that.
But I remember as I was praying one day, and I had just come off of a painful discovery, another one, and I remember telling God, I will do anything to feel better. I will do anything. I will go to therapy and 12 steps and whatever you want. I will do it. And he really spoke to me, and I will never forget him saying, "Help is now on the way." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, I thought you were enough for me, and that this was." And I just had this strong impression I don't need to reinvent the wheel, and
Mm.
that I would be healed in community. And that has proven so true.
Wow.
And what I would say is to anybody listening, I know that it's scary to go to your first meeting, to show your face, and to, it can be terrifying. My first recovery meeting, I drove a whole city away. So I would hopefully not see anyone I knew.
Mhm.
There's so much shame in it. There just is. And if it's not even us we're protecting, we might be protecting the other person that's harming us. But what I came to find was people knew things that I didn't know. And there was no way God was going to be able to tell me all of that with my trauma brain, and how I was like spinning in things and whatever. And people let me stand on their shoulders. And what I would say is I get spoiled with recovery based friendships. They are
Mhm.
different, they are deeper. Like, I am so sad that I went all those years in isolation because coming to find true people who understood, who would hold pain, who would walk with me without judgment is not something I find in any other space in my life. Not at church, not in my family, not with normal friends. It is not.
Mhm.
It is different. It is sacred. It is amazing. And people who just look at us and they like get it. They get it. And sometimes they have amazing wisdom to offer that is just, it's like this collective knowledge, that we can gain from other people that's so amazing and beneficial. And so, yes, it is hard to step out of isolation. It is so hard. I have so much space for that. And I'll say, you're worth it. You're totally worth
Mhm.
it. You're worth, people seeing your pain, and you're worth people understanding and holding it for you and walking with you. And the beauty that's waiting on the other side is like, on the other side of isolation, I should say,
Mhm. Yes.
is like nothing you could probably understand without experiencing it. And so I do wish
Mhm.
for people to experience it.
Mm, yes, and I do. I agree with that. It is a sacred experience, and it is from being in isolation, which is part of the 4A's. Like that
Mhm.
is, there is a reason for the isolation because it does keep you in this little loophole or looping,
Mhm.
right? And so it was when I started, I just like, okay, I'm getting out of that. And I went to, when it was time, I really actually resisted 12 steps for quite a while. I was like, I don't need that. I'll
I know,
read
right?
books about it. And then I read Real's book and I was like, it was amazing. It was like lightning. I
Yeah,
was like,
it's such a
I
good
need to go
book.
to a meeting. I need to go to a meeting. And I looked it up and I went to one the next day. And I've never regretted it since. Like it
I
is
love
a
that.
lifeline. Yeah.
That's beautiful, Rachel. Yeah.
And finding that. And what I found was for the first time ever, I could speak and not get the pushback, the gaslighting that I
Hmm.
was so used to that it had almost become my own voice. And so
Right.
when I said it, and I remember feeling like, is somebody going to be like, yeah, but why don't you look at it this way? And they went, mm-hmm, yep. And my sponsor would tell me the things, and I'm like, wait, why are you not like telling me I need to just see it differently? She's like, yeah, that's really what's happening. And I was like, it felt so good to be validated, to be heard, to be seen, because after decades, I hadn't been with the person that was supposed to be the safest for me.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how you say that. There's
Mm.
something so valuable in that community. It just cannot be understated.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm so glad that I found it. And I will also kind of second what you said. When it's time, you know it's time. And it's okay if it's not time yet.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and sometimes we do need more um, things in place before it's time. Like
Yep.
sometimes, or we need to get to our like final straw and be like,
Yep.
I know this is awful, and I can't do this one more day.
Yep. And then you find yourself in a recovery room.
Yes, you do.
Kind of talking about this trauma, well, actually, you know what? We talked about this. I feel like we have covered that in part one. So let's talk about distinguishing between forgiveness, trust, and reconciliation. And what
Mm,
does true faith centered forgiveness look like when safety has been broken? And again, I want to preface this with this is a very big question. We're just going to kind of touch on it, but it does warrant looking introspectively of what your own core beliefs about forgiveness are.
hmm And I want to say that this is a confusing topic, I think, because um, I remember going and speaking. It was about a different issue, but somebody had harmed one of my children, and I had gone and spoken with a clergy member about that, and I was like, "How do I forgive?" And he's like, "You forgive today. You forgive right now. You forgive instantly." And I was like, I felt so ashamed, that I had
Mm,
been struggling with forgiveness. And I think that is a similar concept that we carry with us with betrayal is that yes, we need to forgive instantly sometimes. Or, I've heard people, yes, my husband had a affair last week and I forgive him. And it's like, maybe.
mhm,
If
mhm,
I'm going to look at that honestly, I feel like I've offered that kind of forgiveness. I know I have, where it's like
mhm.
this instant forgiveness. And then I was going to just put blinders on and walk through life, basically. And um, what I think there's some danger in that because
Yeah.
what I do at least, is if I'm going to do that, one, I'm going to feel good instantly, which is nice. It feels good.
Mhm.
But, if I'm not going to really delve into the pain, I somehow had to cover it up. And it's still there. I didn't heal from it really. It's just buried deeper. And I hit it with forgiveness, with a smile. And and again, I don't think that's actually true forgiveness.
Mhm.
Um, but when we work through things and we say, this hurts, and I'm actually not okay with it, we're more prone to doing things like working with God to set healthy boundaries. We are more prone to really protecting peace and safety. We're more prone to holding people accountable for destructive patterns that are not changing. And, that doesn't mean that we're, their guardian or anything, but it does mean that until this behavior changes, I am going to take really good care of myself or something like that. So, um, forgiveness is not trust, you know?
Mhm.
And I think in that, and we can tell that cheap forgiveness that I would talk about offering is offering trust too quickly,
Yeah.
which has not been earned. And really, maybe I can forgive instantly. I don't know. I don't know
Mhm.
anybody's timeline on forgiveness, but the trust piece has to be earned. We cannot just give that without some kind of payment when there's
Mhm.
patterns, because patterns don't break on their own. They
Mhm.
require some kind of intervention. They require somebody saying that is enough. This hurts. I cannot go on being treated this way. And so there is a difference. There is a difference between forgiveness and trust and doing it well. One of the things
Mhm.
I do love about when I forgive well is that it's almost like I have opened up my heart and let God see the pain or the dark
Mm.
places and said, do you see this spot? This hurts. Will you help me heal this part? Will you help me move on. Will you shine light here? I need some light in this. And that kind of forgiveness changes me transformationally. Yeah, I'm just like different. I'm more at peace with what I can do going forward and with what's happened even.
Mm, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, really that sacred process of communing with God
Yeah.
and finding real forgiveness. And I love that we don't equate the forgiveness equals trust slash relationship even.
Mhm.
And when I was able to separate those, I was like, oh, I can forgive and not be in relationship with a person.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Like
Right.
I absolutely forgive, and again, using God's light and really
Mhm.
doing that process and that work and accepting the pain and the hurt and feeling it. And mm, these are the boundaries. This, like, no, I don't trust you. No, I don't have a relationship
Mhm.
with you. And it really was actually quite a tension for me to move to that place because I had a lot of voices outside and inside of me saying, why don't you just forgive and move on? And what that all meant was stay in relationships, stay in the same place, don't make any differences, don't make waves, don't set boundaries.
Yes. That is what is meant,
Mhm.
and people are coming at this like marriage therapists, like clergy, trying to protect the marriage when they're not
Yeah.
seeing an individual as being harmed, you know.
Yes.
Like in my religion, we believe in eternal marriage. So it's a big deal to end a
Mhm.
marriage or anything. And so I feel like that puts a lot of pressure on everybody to show up
Mhm.
and to fight and to do all that we can, when really we need to look at it like one person is behaving atrociously. That's just
Mhm.
how this is. And the other person is harmed. They're not perfect, but they're harmed. Until that is fixed and repaired, these things need to be on hold, the relationship and whatever.
Yes.
It just does.
Yes, absolutely. And I was so shocked when I started really understanding God a little better, getting a relationship with him, having him more in my center. I was like, "Oh, he likes it when I have boundaries." Like I'm like, "Hey, what, I'm kind of thinking about separating." He's like, "Yeah, do it." And
Hmm.
I was like, "Wait, but he's going to be upset." He's like, "Yeah, I got him." And I was like, "Oh, okay." It felt so good, and I started coming to alignment with myself and higher power.
I love that. Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. And like you're saying, I don't think he always, it just depends on what boundaries are good with God to set. But when, like you, I have felt almost pushed into separation to where it's
Mm-hmm.
like he's encouraging, he's cheering that on because the safety is so compromised. He sees me hurting so badly that he has compassion. And with that, I feel a great deal of protection and love from him when that happens.
Yes. Man, we're leading right into our questions so well because we're talking now about what practices can help women become present again, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and reconnect with themselves and with the God of their understanding. And I want to put in there very broadly higher power, God, whatever resonates with you and your own spirituality and soul.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I guess one of the things I want to say, because we're looking at this from a whole soul approach, um, I want to start with the spiritual side of it because I feel like this is complex. I
Mhm.
have yet to meet a trauma survivor who, when they have delved deep and really looked at it honestly, didn't say, I have some pain with God here. I have, a lot of hurt or whatever. And so when we're looking at this and we're saying we want to take a whole soul approach, I just, with that piece, maybe we'll start with the spiritual side of it. I want to say, go as slow as you need. Go as slow as you need. That does not have to look the same as it does for anybody else. For me, I feel like God is so, he wants relationship with us and he understands. Sometimes people were harmed in his name. It's complicated. I remember being told by my ex one time that um that it was not righteous of me to not forgive him at the time, and I remember thinking that felt really invalidating because there was no ownership, you know. But there's been other spiritual traumas too in my story to where it is complicated, you know, with God. It just is. And so when people can look at that, that's why like in the 12-step program that we run, TS 12 and on, we're on our third printing. We shifted the third printing to be completely higher power centered because
Mm,
sometimes people come into this space and they feel just so harmed by God that they might for a time need to say, I'm going to lean into nature for a bit.
mhm,
You know, I'm going to lean into whatever feels safe, or into, you know, the collective wisdom of my group here or something. And then, you know, I can shift back to coming to know God. But I think he has space for that harm. I think he has space for what that looks like. And I believe he does walk with us even when we're so hurt in those things.
mhm,
So, anyways, so spiritually, if we're going to ground spiritually, that can look all sorts of different ways. My favorite way, honestly, is prayer. In order to do that, though, it's interesting how it all kind of connects. I need to be in my body before I
mhm,
pray. And so as we're looking at that, it's like, okay, then sometimes I'm sitting there like running my hand over the carpet to feel what that feels like, or listening for different sounds or something like that. And so as we're looking at this and what does it take to be present in our bodies, yeah, it just all somehow connects. So it's the emotional awareness is critical
mhm,
to where we're looking and we can identify just even a feelings wheel
mhm.
is so empowering, you know. And for me, I'm always surprised. I don't know why, but when I look at a feelings wheel and it's like, I know how I'm feeling until I look and it's like, oh, I didn't think of that word. You know, I didn't see it that way. Yes, I'm experiencing that. And just to have that thorough list of categories where it's like, yes, I'm this is how I'm feeling. And so I think it's really important that we take all of those categories, spiritual, emotional, physical, and we address each of them as needed. We meet those needs as they come, and we take really good care of ourselves as we're trying to figure it
Mhm.
out because it's hard work. It's so
Yes.
hard.
And we spiral through that. Like it's not just a one-time event, it's a regular revisiting, I mean, daily. That's what
Yes.
I'm not there. I'm always kind of, okay, wow, where am I at? Like reconnecting in all the areas because I want to experience that. Like I'm showing up and wanting to, okay, I want to connect with my body, my
Mhm.
emotions, my higher power, my mind, because then I know me better.
I love that. Yeah.
Mm.
And I love that. I know me better.
I do.
Because we forget sometimes that we're valuable, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, in
Yep.
fact, as you're saying that and you're wearing my favorite color red,
Hmm.
you know, I'll just say I share in the book this story where I had legit forgot my favorite color and God reminded me and I thought that's important to you. You know, that was so surprising to me. And it was like, yeah, it's important to me. You know, I know that you're not this, I don't know, person who likes pastel and calm and whatever. You are this Spitfire who
Vibrant.
vibrant who causes issues sometimes, and you know
Mm.
that's just who you are. It's who. And I was like, okay. And I started to understand if I'm holding up my light like it talks about in scripture that we hold up light, that is not, it's going to look different than anybody else's light
Yeah.
because he made me to be different. And so when we understand that better, we show up differently in this world and we start to say, I'm valuable. What I bring to this world is unique. I am of importance. And what would you have me do, God? And we do it with our hearts, our whole hearts, when we can
Mm.
figure out we've got this purpose.
Oh. And that wisdom that you just spoke, that came from your heart, did not come easily. That came
No,
from real work with God being there, and it's not done.
it's not done. I'm for sure not
Yep.
healed yet. I've got
Yep.
to, you know, right now I'm going through post separation abuse. I'm still learning. I'm growing. I'm still healing. I'm still being wounded, you know, so
Mm-hmm.
it's tricky. I can set boundaries all I want, but I still can't make choices for other people. And it's
Oh,
hard.
it's hard. I really tried to find that loophole to make choices for others.
Me
Sometimes I'm
too.
still looking for that loophole, but no,
Yes.
not there. Oh, yes. And I also want to reflect that losing ourselves is what that betrayal trauma really, that's the deeper impact. And we truly have been objectified by the person in our life who
Yeah,
betrayed us in the various contexts and the four A's. And that objectification, what I found for me is I couldn't be around being objectified for so long till it did seep into me and I objectified myself.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, and you know, that objectification is dehumanizing. You
Yeah.
know, it really is. And so when they treat us like we aren't of value in some ways, it's easy
Hmm.
to then believe maybe I'm not. You know,
Hmm.
nothing is further from the truth, but it's
Hmm.
so easy to let those kinds of thoughts just soak in, and they're challenging to heal. They're
Yes.
challenging to heal
Yep.
in the end.
I remember one of my first, like I said it and I could witness my own self saying it and I believed it was I'm a person. I am a person. Like
I
it just,
love that.
I hadn't even really, I don't know, it got lost somewhere. I used to know, before, and then all of that trauma and I had lost. So it was my declaration that I'm a
Your
person.
declaration. I love that so much.
Mhm. Mm,
Yeah, it's so easy to forget because we become sometimes martyrs, you know?
yeah.
At least it feels that way. I remember feeling like a doormat. That was how I
Hmm.
felt. It's very dehumanizing. It's very painful, lonely. It's a very hard way to live.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you for being here with us. We have one last question to kind of say adieu. With healing, right? It is a long, unpredictable process. It's an ongoing, really.
Hmm.
And so, what encouragement or perspective would you offer to someone who is just in the middle of it or still figuring things out, not sure even what healing might possibly look like, right? Just at that beginning place.
Hmm. I think entering recovery is a hard sell for anybody because
Yeah.
we're like, especially those who have been harmed, we're like, I did not cause this. I did not do this. This is not my responsibility. Have him go get fixed, and then I'm going to be okay. But and I remember even thinking, I'm going to zoom through recovery like it's nothing. I'm going to be just fine. It was so
I was
funny.
with you on
Oh,
that.
thank you
Yeah.
for relating. I remember like talking to my therapist, and I was in a program called Lifestar, and just remember saying something like, "How long does this take?" And he's like, "Well, it doesn't really work that way where we give you a time frame, it's like healing just comes, and when it comes." And I was like, "Well, I'm gonna do it in like a year and a half because I see everybody else doing it. I can be fast. I'm like the speed person, and um by the end of like it was 2 years into that process, and I had to leave the program because I was moving, and I was heartbroken to leave, just heartbroken to leave my community and to leave that healing. And what I would say is yes, it's a hard sell. I relate.
Mhm.
I relate so much with that. And the rewards, I can't even speak to the rewards. The work is worth it. The community is worth it. The diving deep and getting to know who you are is worth it. It is such a beautiful ongoing process that just can be soaked in. I want people to know, yes, I know it's a hard sell. And I hope that you do engage in the work because you will never regret the work that you put
Mm.
forth with this.
Yep. Yes, I agree. And it is, I would hear, especially early on, I would hear women say, I would never have wished this, but I am so grateful for this catalyst and the experience that I've had. And I didn't believe him. Like, I
I
really
know,
was
right?
like, yeah, yeah, you're just saying that.
I know.
And now I'm in this place of the process again because it's not over. And I relate to what you said. Like I thought there was an end point. And
Mm-hmm.
so I got into it like, okay, I mean, how I always had approached it, like, okay, fine, I'll get some support and then I will get this taken care of and then we're done.
Yep.
And I remember a time when it was just like, oh, this is never over. And there was both kind of like, whoa, and also relief. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, so I can take my time. I can
Mm-hmm.
just exist. I can be present and let go of that control space.
Yeah.
And so while it felt daunting, it also at the same time felt more present, more aligned.
Mm-hmm.
And now I continue with that. I'm like, yeah, I'm not done. I really thought I would find a, gold star.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Well, and I do want to say, like you and I, we continue this path in professional capacity. This isn't everybody's fit, and
Mhm.
some people do finish their recovery programs and go back to normal life. And I think that's okay. But the more we look at it like, yeah, it's not this end goal. It's like
Yeah.
we really are coming to a place of acceptance, place of knowing who we are, understanding stories, moving forward in healthier ways that we didn't understand before. It's really a beautiful process.
Yeah, it is. And difficult and painful.
Yeah,
Both are true.
truth.
Yes. Well, thank you again, Jenny, for being here. And I'm going to be sure to include links to Her Wings Unfold, your organization that
Thank
you
you.
run and that we've made reference to. And I have just thoroughly enjoyed my time connecting with you and hearing your perspective and your experience.
I have too. I think I consider you a friend, even though this is really the first time we've met face to face. So I appreciate it so much, and thank you for having me on, Rachel. Appreciate you.
Mm, thank you. And thank you to our listeners. Again, as always, take what resonates and leave the rest. Bye bye. Thanks for joining me today on the Betrayal Trauma Recovery Bookshelf. If something from this episode spoke to you, share it with a friend or come connect with me online. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Rachel Strong Smith. And if you want to go deeper, sign up for my email newsletter, where I share grounded support, personal insights, and practical tools to help you reconnect with yourself. Remember, healing isn't a straight line, it's a spiral, and every step towards yourself matters. So, until next time, take gentle care.